called motor neuron disease. Life expectancy is 2 years.
I want us to be together for as long as we've got.
It'll affect everything.
You don't realize what lies ahead. This is going to be a very heavy defeat.
Finding how to play this character, I think physically, seems to be the first thing that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. What was sort of the process for that?
What was the process? I didn't really know how to approach it, because every single thing affects everything else. So what you're wearing affects the physicality affects so all of these things had I felt like they were interrelated. So I spent 6 months going to motor neuron disease, ALS clinic in London, and trying to work out what Stephen's physical decline was, because ALS manifests itself completely differently in every single patient. And so I had to be quite technical with it to begin with, and then that meant that when we came to shoot it, because we didn't get to shoot it chronologically, I could sort of slip into different places, and hopefully the reason I spent so long prepping is that then the physicality is embedded.
It seems like also it'd be a tremendous strain on you as an actor, or even just physically.
There was a genius man called Dan Studdert, greatest osteopath in the world, who was shout out Dan, who was very generous and came whenever, which was because the problem is you're sitting in those positions for quite substantial periods, and he was phenomenal. But every day, at the end of the day, even if I was in a wee bit of pain, you get to step out of the wheelchair, and it was a constant reminder of how lucky you are.
What were your sort of concerns going into, I guess, in general? So,
do you want to know?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want a list? How long have you got?
I know. I would imagine, like, as an actor taking on, like, first of all, a character somebody so famous and well known, and so distinct, and still alive.
Yeah.
And so smart.
And so smart, and then also so all of those things, plus. Also, the disease represent when I met people with motor neuron disease, portraying that illness truthfully with authenticity is vital. So also the science, representing the science. I met some of Stephen's, old students, and of course they have huge. So at every level, the stakes felt pretty high. But it was one of those things that amazing moment when you get a role like this. They don't come along ever. That you have a moment of euphoria followed a split second later by a year of fear. And that's what it felt like. And now that it's going out into the world, the stakes feel pretty high.
You need to relax.
I need to chill out of it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you really
take a tranquilizer.
But yeah, the science seemed. I wanted to talk about the actual physics and everything. How good are you at that now, or is that all just?
Do you want the lying answer or the?
Let's try both.
Well, I read almost everything that has been written about his science. Good little student that I am. How much I understood is a totally different matter. What I find incredibly confusing is, because it's a period film and it goes over a long period, is also what has been, which theories ended up being true and which have been disproven, or and it constantly changes. And every day, or not every day, but a couple of weeks ago, I read in the newspaper in London that Stephen had gone back on one of his. I'm like, Stephen, just as I begin to get my head around, like, you're, radiate. Can you not now? Can you just stick to what you're? Yes. But no, I studied history of art at university, so I gave up physics and when I was about 14. So that was definitely the biggest acting feat. I think was pretending I knew what I was talking about.
The professor did an interview with John Oliver recently, like earlier this year for the show, and showcased what I think a lot of people are often surprised at, like how funny he is. Yeah. And you capture that very well. But sort of what was was there anything about his sense of humor that sort of surprised you?
So when I met him, and it was about 4 days before we started filming, and I spent months researching him, and it was like meeting someone that you've Googled, and it takes him. He can only use this muscle now to communicate. So it takes him a while, to even longer than in the film, to speak to you. And of course, I've just started telling him about himself. I was just literally telling this genius random facts about himself for 20 minutes. And anyway, I was so nervous and struggling that I ended up going, of course, Stephen, you were born on the 8th of January, which was Galileo's birthday, because he makes a big point about the fact that he was born 300 years after Galileo was. And I went, well, I was born on the 6th of January, so we're both Capricorns. At which point, as it kind of spewed out, I was like, what? And Stephen looked at me and then spent 5 minutes writing out a sentence, and then in his iconic voice, he said, "I am an astronomer, not an astrologer." And I was like, Stephen Hawking thinks that the actor who's playing him thinks that he's a horoscope writer. This is disastrous.